Hello people of YouTube, this is Breakfastitem, and what I plan to do in the next videos that I'm going to make, I guess that was kind of a bad introduction, but anyway, what I plan to do is go over chess strategies and just generally play chess, because that's what I consider fun. That was really bad. I'm going to have to restart this. Screwed. Alright, so without introducing myself, I'll edit over that later. Alright, so this is like a typical opening, but what I like to do is instead of moving up with my rook or knight to protect my pawn, I generally like to just move my pawn up there, and that forces him to do one of two things. Either take that with his rook, knight, or no. He can either ignore it and move up a position with his pawn, in which case I'd move that up, or he'll just do something different. That is weird. Alright, well, now that I've moved my pawn up into a more aggressive stance, it's going to be really hard for him to develop his pieces properly, because he decided to do it for absolutely no reason. So now he's threatening that pawn when he moved there. So what I want to do is protect that pawn with my knight. I suppose it won't matter, but it's better to because if he takes this pawn, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is great. I'm really glad I did this totally prepared, and yep, I'm not gonna have to restart this at all. Oh, right here actually, this is actually something good, is that I'm gonna be able to trap his knight, because no matter where he moves, because he can only move here, 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 and here. But he can't move here because his pawn's there. So no matter where he moves, I'm going to be able to take his knight, which is going to put me up in pieces. If I look at this somewhere, I don't know what that is. Okay, that's not important. This is what I'm looking for. And so, now wherever he moves, I'm basically going to get his knight at an advantage. And there are point systems to each piece. Pawns are worth 1 point. Points don't do anything, they just generally show you an idea of how the game is going. Knights show, I think knights and bishops are both 3 points, rooks are 5 points, and queen is 10 points, and your king is infinite points, obviously, because if you lose him, you lose the game. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and take his knight and let him take that pawn, because it doesn't really matter all that much at this point, because even if he does take that, I can just take it back fairly easily. Or you could do that. I did not see that. Okay, well, that's not really too big of a problem. Generally the best thing to do when you're in this situation, where a bishop comes and threatens your rook who's by your king, is instead of like moving a pawn up, which I can't do now anyway, but if you move a pawn up there, he'll just take your knight, and if you take that, would force you basically to take it with this pawn, which would mess up your pawn system, because it would give you a double pawn and put this pawn out of position. So that's generally not a good thing to do. So what you generally want to do is move your bishop here. So if it takes that, you just take it with your bishop. Nothing really lost. And it doesn't harm your king if you move your knight. yeah. What I'm thinking is gonna. Oh, yeah. Well, that wasn't what I thought, but never mind. Um. Let's see. He has a pretty good pawn structure by his queen, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get past that. And I think there's just a pretty easy way. Um. Actually, I think this is. Oh wait, that's a bad trade. Um. I am actually going to move my. I'm gonna go ahead and take that trade because I'm pretty sure if I take that trade, he'll take it with this pawn, which will put this out of position, and the same thing will happen over here when he'll take my knight and put that out of position. And I'm pretty sure we'll end up even, but I'm already ahead of material, so what I want to be doing is trading. Yeah. So if you look over here, he has 1 point because he's taken his pawn. He's taken up 1 pawn of mine, and I have 6 points because I have taken 2 knights, which are worth 3 each. Points don't actually matter; they just give you a really good idea of how the game is going. Generally, the person who has the most points just wants to trade towards the end game, which the end of the end game is generally when you only have your rooks, queen maybe, and maybe one rook, or not rook, a knight or bishop on each side. Pawns are usually cleared out. Rooks are always better in the endgame because they can move around the board a lot easier because there's a lot less pawns, which generally makes them more effective. I think the move I'm going to head and make here is move my queen up, which will protect this from rooting my pawn position right here and making a double pawn, which I don't want. And it will threaten this pawn. So, yeah, that's generally a good move. There's not really much you can do to attack my queen from that position, other than take my knight, which in that case, as previously said, I'll just take his bishop without sacrificing any of my pawn structure. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then what I expect him to do, well, I don't know yet, but he might move his queen up from here to, yeah, that's what I meant. Let's see, how can he turn this? That really doesn't give him that much help, because it does support this, but even if he does still take that, that doesn't involve the same, it's no longer protected, so it wouldn't matter if I took it with my pawn anyway. And since I'm ahead, it would be better for me to grab pawn structure, or just trade pawns. Because the more I trade, the quicker we go to the end game, and as long as you're ahead, you will generally win the end game. Alright. What he did here was move his pawn up twice, which generally prevents me from advancing on this side, because it has a decently nice pawn structure. Because I can't take this, or he'll get my rook with that rook. And, yeah. Well, something I can do, and probably will want to do, is castle. And castling, you can castle on both sides. You can't castle through check or out of check. And, the king always moves 2 spaces towards the rook, and the rook always takes the space to the right of the king, or the left of the king, depending on where you do it. And there can't be any pieces in between you and your castle, so this has to be cleared out, so I can only castle on this side, and I'll go ahead and do that. By doing this, I am protecting this pawn, so I can go ahead and push it up if I want, and that would be good because I would threaten his queen, which is what I want, to move his queen off that position. So, oh wait, well hold on. I think that not be a good idea because he can just take it with his bishop, and I would have to, yeah, sacrifice it with my rook, and that would not be a good idea because bishops are worth less than rooks, so he'd be getting a 2-point advantage on that trade, and I do not want him to get that. So I think what I might end up just doing is, I think I'll either take this pawn, or I think it'd be best for me to take that pawn. Yeah. Alright, yeah. So by taking that pawn, he basically has to take it with that, because if he does it, I'll have a really dangerous pass pawn, because I'll definitely move it up one. Yeah, and if you don't generally want pawns on their own file without a pawn near it, or past other pawns, because they're really dangerous to be passed up, because they can be promoted. And generally, pawn promotion is very important near the endgame, which makes pawns very valuable towards the endgame, so you generally want to keep them protected. Good move here. This bishop is no longer threatening my king, so I don't even have to worry about that. So I can move my knight freely. And I think by doing that, I will threaten his queen. He might just trade it with my bishop, but as I said, I'm up in points, so it's okay if I get traded, or if my pieces get traded, which is when, yeah, they're equal value, so it doesn't really matter. And so I'll still be up ahead in points, and I'll work my way towards the end game, which is good. And so I'll go ahead and do that. And that threatens his queen. So he'll either trade, which is good for me, or he'll move his queen, which is also good for me, because then I can fork his king and his rook. And when I move my knight up here, I'll put it in check, so he can't move his rook out of the way of my knight's attack. And so he'll have to move his king, or put, well, yeah, he'll have to move his king. But, so I can take his rook, but he decided to go for the trade, which is okay, because that's advantage for me, because I'm up in points, and so I want to trade towards the endgame. Now, whether I want to take this with my pawn, or my knight, rook, the advantages, I think I want to keep my pawn there, because that's blocking these two pawns from advancing, and if I move that out of the way, he can continue to advance on my knight, which I do not want, because that would put my knight out of position. Generally, you want your knights in the middle of the board. If you have them up here, they don't have as much of attack area. You want to keep your bishops, of course, open on the diagonals, as many spaces as possible, to block as many squares from your opponent to develop on. And yeah, so I'm probably just going to take it with my rook, which will put pressure on that pawn by his queen, and generally be good. Yeah. Again, with the trading, the points, I am up by 3 points, which is equivalent to a rook or a bishop, which is good, which means I should be able to win the endgame if it does go into the endgame. Alright, so he castled on his side. So, let's think about this. I think I might try to put his bishop out of position by threatening with this pawn. And then I really need, it's really bad for me to have my bishop here, because it's basically blocking my rook from getting out near the endgame. And basically this piece is undeveloped, so I really need to develop that. It would be best for me to, yeah, I'm saying a lot, I realize this now, but let's see. Yeah, I think I'm just going to try to move his pawn out, or not pawn, but bishop out of position by threatening with my pawn, and by doing that, he'll only have two viable moves, which is here and here, or here, I suppose. But that wouldn't be a very good position. And the fact that I can push up later, and he will put his queen, he won't be able to protect his bishop with his queen, and I might even be able to trap it against his king. So yeah, that's, I think, a generally good move. Now my king, however, is fairly unprotected, which isn't good. I should really be protecting him more, but he doesn't really have an attack going right now. I guess he could move his queen up, but not without that. And so anyway, he did what I thought he would do and move his pawn back, but I don't know if that's a generally good position for him. I could move my pawn up twice to threaten that again, and that might be just what I do. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do. Because if he moves here, he'll be fine, but if he moves here to c7, I can move my rook up to trap him, which is called discover check, because if he can't move the bishop, because if he moves his bishop, it'll put his king in check, so he can't do that. And so basically he'll have his bishop trapped, and my rook will be protected by the pawn that I would have moved up twice, which I think I'm going to do. And so his queen can't take my rook, and his rook over here won't be able to develop towards this side of the board, which is where my king is, which is good. So I think I'm going to move to b4. Alright, so he did make the better move, which is to not get his bishop trapped, and generally people don't make that mistake who play online. So now I definitely need to move my bishop out. Yeah, if I don't do that, I can't develop my pieces properly, and that'll give me a disadvantage, even though I have the advantage on points. Because if you don't develop your pieces, you can't attack positions, which is very bad. Alright, so I'm going to develop my bishop. And that's not really a huge attack, but it allows me to get my rook out, which I really desperately need to do that. And both of his rooks are currently stuck. They can't escape properly. Hold on. Or they can't get out of this very easily. They'd have to go through this gap, and they can only do it one at a time unless he moves his king. But yeah, basically I did something, or he basically took a free pawn from me, which you generally don't want to happen. I didn't see that, so by taking that, he basically just gets a free pawn. So now I'm only up by 2 points. But that generally doesn't matter because I have, I think, a positional advantage on him to be able to hopefully finish this game. I don't know if I will be able to or not. Depends on how good his defense is. But I think I'll start my attack by moving my pawn up here, forcing him to decide with this pawn. If he attacks it, I will be able to take it with this bishop. Problem with that, he'll be able to, I guess, he could take that with his queen. Well, that's actually okay, because if he takes that with his queen, right here, if I move my pawn up, he takes this pawn, I move my bishop up, and he takes this pawn with my queen after that, he'll be threatening my bishop, but, that might not be actually a good position. I'll have to think about this, hold on. Um, I actually think it would be better for now just to advance my rook. Basically, there's nothing I can do about his bishop right now, because if I threaten it, he'll just move it out of the way back to its original position. So I'm not going to threaten it. Instead, I'm going to push this lane right here with a double rook. So these rooks can support each other, and then next turn, I will make that move. Alright, right here it's put me in check, which is a very not good move, because I can just move it over here. I don't know what he's trying to do. I think he's just trying to harass me with the check, or maybe even get a fork off if he thought it was protected, but it's not. So I can take, well, it would have been a really good move if he had this protected, because if he had this protected, I would have no answer, because I would have to, he basically forked my queen and my king. If I had moved my king, he'd just take my queen for no penalty at all. But since it's not protected, I can move my queen up and take his queen, or his bishop with my queen. And that basically skyrockets the amount of likelihood that I'm going to win this game, because I'm currently up by 5 points, which isn't too bad, but generally if I play carefully enough and we're close enough to the end game, that I'll be able to basically secure victory for this chess match. Depending on what he moves, I'll probably move my queen up here. Now up here more, because that will threaten his rook, knight, king. Yeah, that'll threaten his king. He'll have to move his king because it would be in check. So I'll either be able to move it here or here. In both cases, I will continue to harass him with my queen. And there's not much he can do about that at this point. I have the advantage over him, so I'll just harass him. And hopefully, if he makes a bad move or a mistake, I'll be able to checkmate him. So I'll move here. Now he's in check, so I'll have to move somewhere. And if he has two choices, either there or there, and he chose there. It's not specific, but that's a generally good position for me, because I'll be able to harass him again and take his pawn, which brings my point advantage even further. And then his only move will be here. And so as soon as he moves here, I can continue to do that because there's no threat right now. And I'll put him in check again, so he can't take my thing again, or my pawn. Or he can't, he'll have to move, he can't make a attack move. So he'll have to move his king, and he can't threaten any pieces with his other pieces. That's kind of half of an explanation, but by doing this, I'll basically put myself in further advantage and continue to put him in check. And depending on what he decides to do here, he'll either move here, or here, or here, or here. This is the better move right now. If he moves his king back over here, which wasn't a good move before, yeah, that was not a good move. He basically isolates his king, and he does not want to do that at this point. So now I can trade down right here. This is the weak position because I have more pieces attacking this square than he has defending. So I can basically threaten his queen right now with that piece, which I will go ahead and do. By taking this, he'll either take it with his rook or his queen, and he's definitely going to take it with his rook. Yeah, so, and then after he takes it with his rook, I will go ahead and take it with my other rook, his rook that he takes with, yeah, I'll show you. So I'll go here, he'll take my rook, this rook, if he wants a trade, which he might actually not run a trade. He doesn't want to trade because he's down in material. And if you're down in material, you want to generally avoid trading pieces because in the end game, you're going to lose no matter what. So what I'm going to do here is now push, or do what I said was going to do, and take his rook with my rook, which is basically a trade, except I got an extra pawn out of it. And now he can only take this rook with my queen, or with his queen, and if he takes that, I'll take his queen with my queen without any penalty from my queen, and that would have also have me trade, which pushes me up even further, and now basically we're in the endgame, and there's not much he can do to protect his king. And basically, if he doesn't move next turn, I'll be able to checkmate him here. So he either has to move his queen and take my rook, or move his rook up and threaten my queen. Yeah. Or he'll move his queen out of the way, but that's not a good move because I can checkmate him. Yep, and that was my first game that I recorded. Yeah, so if you like this video, okay. I plan to do more of these. Yeah, I'll make more of these videos. I don't see why not. That was pretty fun. Alright. Bye. This is Breakfastitem, by the way. Yeah. Where's the stop recording button? Oh, it's up here. Alright. Yeah.